Hey everyone, welcome. Now let me be clear. This is not going to be a podcast or some typical language lesson. This is different. Today, I'm going to give you the secret to speaking English confidently, without translating, without hesitation, and without overthinking. Let me start with a quick story. I remember the first time I tried speaking English. My heart was racing, my palms were sweaty, and my mind went completely blank. I was terrified I'd say something wrong, that people would laugh at me, or that I'd embarrass myself. But I spoke anyway. And that's when everything changed. The reason you're struggling to speak fluently isn't because you don't know enough English. It's because your brain is stuck translating, and that's slowing you down. But here's the good news. You don't need to know more words or memorize more grammar to fix this. What you need is a shift in how you think. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to train your brain to think directly in English, respond faster, and speak more naturally. So stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll have the tools to finally speak English confidently. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Why speaking English feels so hard. Let's be honest. Speaking English feels hard, right? You've been studying for months, maybe even years, and you understand English when you hear it. But when it's time to speak, your mind goes blank. You freeze. And the worst part, you know that you should be able to say it, but the words just don't come out. That's exactly how I felt when I first started learning English. I remember sitting in a coffee shop trying to order a simple drink. My heart was racing, my palms were sweating, and my mind was racing through all the possible ways to say it. But I couldn't get the words out. I ended up pointing at the menu and mumbling, this one. Why does this happen? It's not because you don't know enough English, it's because you're thinking in your native language and trying to translate into English. I had a student named Diego who told me the exact same thing. Diego had been studying English for 2 years. He knew hundreds of words and could understand TV shows and even conversations. But when it was time to speak, he froze. He said, I know what I want to say, but it's like my brain just shuts down when I try to say it in English. The problem is that Diego was stuck in translation mode. His brain was trying to process English through the filter of his native language. He would hear a sentence, think about how to say it in his language, then try to convert it back into English. And by the time he was ready to speak, the conversation had already moved on. And here's the thing. Diego's situation is not unique. This is exactly what most English learners go through. Your brain is doing extra work, processing in 2 languages at once, and that's why it feels slow and exhausting. Fear makes it even worse. Let's be real. You're not just struggling with the words. You're worried about getting it wrong. You're afraid of sounding silly or embarrassing yourself. And that fear makes you hesitate even more. I had another student named Rachel who told me, I'm scared people will laugh at me if I make a mistake. So every time she spoke, she would second-guess herself. She'd start a sentence, stop, correct herself, and then get stuck. That constant mental pressure to get it right made her completely shut down. But here's the truth. Native speakers don't care about your mistakes. They care about the message, not the grammar. If you say, I go store yesterday, instead of I went to the store yesterday, people will still understand you. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're traveling in a foreign country and you need help. Someone says, you go bus station left, then straight. It's not perfect grammar, but you understand the message, right? That's exactly how native speakers feel when you speak English. And then there's the vocabulary problem. A lot of learners think they need to know more words to be fluent, but that's not true. The average native speaker only uses about 3,000 words in daily conversation. You don't need to know fancy, complicated words. You just need to know how to use simple words naturally. Think about it. You don't need to know the word exquisite to describe food. You can just say, it tastes really good. Simple works. And here's another trick. If you don't know the exact word, just describe it. Example, if you don't know the word for umbrella, you could say, the thing you use when it rains. If you don't know the word for ceiling, you could say, the top of the room. This is what fluent speakers do all the time. They work around missing vocabulary instead of freezing. So the problem isn't your vocabulary, it's how you're using it. The real reason you're struggling to speak isn't because you don't know enough English. It's because you're trying to translate, second-guessing yourself, and putting too much pressure on perfection. And that's why you're stuck. But here's the good news. You don't need more words or better grammar to fix this. You need to train your brain to think directly in English, to stop translating and start responding automatically. And that's exactly what we're going to fix in the next section. Chapter 2. Stop translating. Start thinking in English. All right. So now you know why speaking English feels so hard. But let's talk about the real reason behind it. Translation. If you're trying to translate from your native language into English while you're speaking, you're setting yourself up for failure. And that's exactly why you freeze or hesitate. Here's what's happening in your brain when someone asks you, "What do you do for work?" Your brain processes it in your native language first. Then you try to find the right English words to match what you're thinking. After that, you try to put those words into the correct grammar structure. And by the time you figure it all out, the conversation has already moved on. Let me give you an example. I had a student named Diego who was fluent in Spanish. He told me, when someone asks me a question in English, I hear it in Spanish first. Then I think about the answer in Spanish. After that, I try to translate it into English. But by the time I figure it out, it's too late. That's because his brain was stuck in translation mode. He was processing in two languages at the same time, and that's why it felt slow and exhausting. Now let me tell you how native speakers think. When a native speaker hears a question like, "How are you?" they don't think about grammar or vocabulary. They don't break down the sentence and try to analyze it. They respond automatically. Why? Because they've trained their brain to think directly in English. For example, when a native speaker hears, "How was your weekend?" their brain isn't thinking, "What's the correct past tense for the word be?" No, they just say, "It was good." That's the goal, to get to a place where you don't have to think about structure or grammar. You just respond naturally. So why can't you do that yet? Because you're treating English like a math problem, breaking down every piece, analyzing it, and trying to get it perfect. But language doesn't work that way. It's not about perfection. It's about connection. Think about how you speak your native language. When you say, "I'm hungry," you don't think about grammar or vocabulary. You just say it. That's exactly what you need to train your brain to do in English. And here's the good news. You can train your brain to think this way. You don't need to memorize more words or study more grammar. You just need to create a mental shortcut so your brain processes English automatically without going through the translation step. Let me give you an example. Instead of thinking, "I like pizza," "Mi gusta la pizza," translating back into English, "I like pizza," you should think, "Pizza equals I like it." It's faster because you're not translating. You're connecting directly to the meaning. And you might be thinking, "Okay, but how do I actually stop translating?" That's what we're going to fix next. I'm going to show you exactly how to train your brain to skip the translation step and think directly in English. Once you master this, speaking English will feel natural, and you'll finally be able to respond quickly and confidently. Chapter 3. The power of simple sentences. Let me tell you a secret. You don't need to speak perfect English to sound fluent. One of the biggest mistakes English learners make is thinking they need to create long, complicated sentences to sound smart. But the truth is, native speakers don't talk like that. Fluency isn't about sounding fancy, it's about communicating clearly, and that starts with simple, powerful sentences. Think about how native speakers talk. They don't say, I am currently experiencing a sensation of hunger. They just say, I'm hungry. They don't say, would you be so kind as to direct me toward the nearest coffee shop? They say, where's the coffee shop? Simple works. Simple is fast. Simple is natural. I had a student named Rachel who told me, I want to sound more natural when I speak English. But every time she tried to speak, she overcomplicated things. Instead of saying, I'm really tired because I stayed up too late last night studying, she could have just said, I'm tired. I stayed up late. Same message, but simpler and more natural. Here's the thing. Simple sentences help you sound more confident. Why? Because when you use simple sentences, you don't have to overthink. Your brain processes them faster, and you don't get stuck trying to remember complex grammar structures. Think about how children learn to speak. They start with simple sentences like, I'm hungry, I want that, or let's go. And guess what? It works. Because simple sentences are the foundation of communication. Let me give you some examples of simple, natural sentences you can use every day. I like coffee. I don't understand. Can you help me? That sounds good. I'm not sure. These are the kinds of phrases native speakers use all the time. They're short, direct, and easy to remember. Now let's practice. I'm going to say a situation, and I want you to respond with a simple sentence. Don't overthink it. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. Situation 1. You're at a restaurant and you need water. What would you say? Situation 2. You didn't understand what someone said. How would you respond? Situation 3. You're late to a meeting. What would you say when you arrive? That's it. See how easy that is. Simple sentences make speaking less stressful because you're focusing on communication, not perfection. And here's the best part. The more you use simple sentences, the faster your brain will process them. Fluency isn't about saying complex things. It's about saying simple things easily and naturally. So stop trying to impress people with big words and start focusing on clear, simple communication. That's how you build real confidence. In the next section, we're going to take this even further, and I'll show you how to train your brain to think faster and respond automatically. Chapter 4. Train your brain to respond faster. All right, now that you understand the power of simple sentences, let's take it to the next level. The key to speaking English fluently isn't knowing more words. It's about how quickly you can access the words you already know. And that's where most learners get stuck. You know the words, you know the grammar, but when someone asks you a question, your brain freezes. Why? Because you haven't trained your brain to respond automatically. Fluent speakers don't stop to think about grammar, they just respond. When someone asks a native speaker, how's it going? They don't pause and think, okay, what's the correct grammar structure for this? They just say, good, you, without even thinking. That's because their brain has been trained to process English automatically, like muscle memory. Think about riding a bike. The first time you tried, you probably fell. But after enough practice, your brain and body learned how to balance, and now you don't even think about it. Speaking English works the same way. You need to train your brain to respond automatically. And the fastest way to do that is through rapid response training. This is exactly how athletes and musicians train. They repeat specific actions until their brain processes them automatically. And you can do the same with speaking English. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone asks you, "What's your favorite color?" If you stop to think, okay, color means, and favorite means, and I need to put it together like this, you're already too late. You've lost the flow. But if you train your brain to respond automatically, you'll say blue instantly, without hesitation. Let's try it right now. I'm going to ask you a few simple questions, and I want you to answer immediately. Don't overthink it. Just respond. What's your favorite color? Where are you from? What did you eat for breakfast? Do you prefer coffee or tea? What's one thing you love doing? See how that works? The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to respond quickly. Now let's level it up. Let's try it with follow-up questions. This time, I want you to answer, and then give a little extra detail. What's your favorite food? Pizza. I love how cheesy it is. What's your favorite sport? Football. I used to play when I was younger. What's your favorite place to visit? The beach. I love listening to the sound of the waves. This is how you build fluency, not by memorizing words, but by training your brain to respond naturally. At first, you might hesitate or make mistakes, and that's fine. But the more you practice, the faster and smoother your responses will become. The goal is to reduce the thinking time between hearing a question and answering it. And you don't need someone else to practice this. You can do it on your own. Try asking yourself questions in the mirror or narrate what you're doing during the day. I'm making coffee. It smells good. I need to buy more milk. This kind of active practice will train your brain to process English faster, and before you know it, you'll be speaking without hesitation. In the next section, we'll talk about how to improve your pronunciation and make your English sound more natural. Chapter 5. How to Stop Overthinking and Build Confidence. Let's be honest. One of the biggest reasons you're not speaking fluently isn't because you don't know enough the English. It's because you're overthinking. You start thinking, what if I make a mistake? What if they don't understand me? What if I sound stupid? And by the time you've processed all of that, the conversation is already over. But here's the truth. Overthinking is the enemy of fluency. Fluent speakers aren't perfect. They're confident. Have you ever heard a native speaker say something like, "I seen it yesterday," instead of, "I saw it yesterday"? Or say, "It don't matter," instead of, "It doesn't matter"? It happens all the time. And guess what? The conversation keeps going. Because communication is not about perfection, it's about connection. I had a student named Maria who was terrified of making mistakes. She would start speaking, realize she had made a mistake, and immediately shut down. She told me, if I can't say it perfectly, I'd rather not say anything at all. That's exactly why she wasn't improving. Her fear of mistakes was stopping her from practicing. And without practice, you can't get better. Think about it this way. When a baby learns to walk, they fall a lot. But they don't stop trying because they're afraid of falling. They keep going until they figure it out. Learning a language works the same way. The problem isn't making mistakes. The problem is being afraid to make them. If you say, "I go store yesterday," instead of, "I went to the store yesterday," no one is going to laugh at you. People will still understand you. And most importantly, you'll keep the conversation going. Native speakers are not sitting there judging your grammar. They're listening to understand what you're saying. And here's the thing. Most native speakers admire people who are learning a new language. They respect the effort. So how do you stop overthinking? First, give yourself permission to make mistakes. Instead of thinking, "I can't make mistakes," tell yourself, "It's okay to make mistakes. It's part of the process." Second, keep the conversation going, even if you mess up. If you say something wrong, just correct yourself and keep going. Or better yet, Laugh about it. Third, focus on the message, not the grammar. If you don't know the exact word, describe it. If you make a grammar mistake, don't stop. Just keep talking. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're at a coffee shop and you don't know how to say whipped cream. Instead of freezing, you could say, the sweet thing on top of the coffee. The person will understand, and you've kept the conversation going. That's how fluent speakers communicate. They focus on the message, not the grammar. Now, let's try it. I'm going to give you a sentence with a mistake, and I want you to correct it, but without stopping the flow. Yesterday I go to the store. I don't can do it. She have 2 dogs. See? Fixing mistakes is easy, and the more comfortable you get with making them, the faster you'll improve. Fluency comes from action, not perfection. Stop waiting until you feel ready, because you'll never feel ready. Start speaking now, and the confidence will come naturally. In the next section, we'll talk about how to improve your pronunciation and sound more natural when you speak. Chapter 6. How to improve pronunciation naturally. All right, now that you've learned how to stop overthinking, let's talk about how to sound more natural when you speak. Because here's the thing, it's not just about the words you say, it's about how you say them. Fluent speakers don't sound natural because they have perfect grammar. They sound natural because of their tone, rhythm, and flow. And the fastest way to improve your pronunciation is through a technique called shadowing. Shadowing is simple, but powerful. You listen to how native speakers talk, and you repeat exactly what they say, copying their tone, rhythm, and even their pauses. Think of it like learning a song. When you listen to a song you like, you naturally try to match the way the singer sounds, right? That's shadowing, but with language. Let me give you an example. I had a student named Diego who was really struggling with pronunciation. He told me, I know the words, but I sound so robotic when I speak. So I told him to pick a scene from a TV show and repeat exactly what the actors were saying. He chose Friends and started shadowing the dialogue. Hey Ross, what's up? Hey Ross, what's up? I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? He would pause, repeat, and try to match the exact tone and rhythm of the actors. And guess what? After 2 weeks, his speaking sounded way more natural. That's because shadowing trains your brain to recognize natural patterns. It teaches you where to pause, how to stress certain words, and how to use natural intonation without overthinking. Let's try it right now. I'm going to say a few sentences, and I want you to repeat after me. Try to match my tone and rhythm. I'm really tired today. That sounds like a good idea. I don't know. What do you think? Good! Now here's where it gets more advanced. Try to copy not just the words, but the emotion behind them. I'm so excited. Sound excited. I'm really tired. Sound tired. That's amazing. Sound amazed. See the difference. Pronunciation isn't just about getting the sounds right. It's about getting the feeling right. Here's your challenge. Watch a scene from a TV show or a YouTube video in English. Pause after each sentence and repeat exactly what you hear. Match the tone, speed, and emotion, not just the words. Start with 5 minutes a day, and you'll be amazed at how quickly your pronunciation improves. And remember, you don't need to sound exactly like a native speaker. The goal is to sound clear and natural, and shadowing will get you there. In the next section, we're going to talk about how to build a bank of useful phrases so you can respond quickly and naturally in any conversation. Chapter 7. How to build a bank of useful phrases. Let me tell you a secret. Fluent speakers aren't thinking about grammar while they're speaking. They're using automatic patterns that they've practiced so many times that the sentences just come out naturally. Think about it. When a native speaker says, "How's it going?" or "What's up?" they're not building that sentence word by word. It's already stored in their brain as a complete unit. That's why it comes out so fast. That's the key. You need to stop building sentences from scratch and start using patterns. Instead of memorizing individual words, learn complete phrases and sentence patterns that you can pull from automatically. I had a student named Rachel who told me, "I know the words, but I can't put them together fast enough when I speak." That's because she was trying to build sentences piece by piece instead of pulling from ready-made patterns. Here's how you fix that. You build a bank of useful phrases. Let me give you an example. Instead of learning the word go, learn patterns like "let's go," "can we go," "we should go," "I want to go." Instead of learning the word think, learn "I think so." "What do you think?" "I don't think that's right." Instead of learning the word like, learn "I like it." "Do you like it?" "I don't like that." See how that works? You're not just learning vocabulary. You're learning real usable sentences that you can pull from instantly. Let's try it right now. I'm going to say a phrase, and I want you to repeat it. Let's get started. "I'm not sure." "What do you think?" "That's a good idea." Good. Now here's where it gets powerful. Start building your own versions of these phrases. Instead of "let's go," try "let's eat," "let's talk," or "let's start." Instead of "I think so," try "I think we should," "I think it's better," or "I think you're right." This is how native speakers speak so quickly. They're not creating new sentences every time. They're pulling from patterns. Here's your challenge. Write down 10 useful phrases you hear in conversations or shows. Repeat them daily until they feel automatic. Start using them naturally in conversations. Once you build a strong bank of useful phrases, you won't have to think about grammar or structure. The sentences will just flow. And in the next section, I'll show you how to practice speaking in daily life, even if you don't have anyone to practice with. Chapter 8. How to Practice. Speaking in daily life. Here's the truth. You don't need to be in an English-speaking country to practice speaking every day. You can practice English in your daily life, even if you're alone. Fluent speakers aren't fluent because they memorize grammar. They're fluent because they think in English all the time, and you can train your brain to do the same. Let me show you how. Instead of waiting for the perfect opportunity to speak English, start using it in everyday life. Narrate your day. When you're making coffee, say out loud, "I'm making coffee." "It smells really good. I need more sugar." If you're walking to work, describe what you see. "The weather's nice today. There's a lot of traffic. I forgot my umbrella." Talk to yourself. Yes, talk to yourself. It might feel silly at first, but it works. Imagine you're having a conversation with someone. "How was your day?" "It was good. I went to the gym." "What's your favorite food?" "I love pizza, especially with extra cheese." Use everyday situations. If you're cooking, say, "I'm chopping vegetables. I need more salt. This smells delicious." When you're cleaning, "I need to vacuum the floor. This room is messy. I should organize my desk." Practice with a partner. If you have a friend who speaks English, practice together. Instead of saying, "Let's meet for coffee," say, "Let's speak in English for 10 minutes." And if you don't have anyone to practice with, use a language app, join a speaking club, or even record yourself speaking. Here's the trick. The more you speak in real life, the more natural it feels. Speaking English shouldn't be a special study session. It should be part of your daily routine. Here's your challenge. Narrate 3 activities you do tomorrow, out loud in English. Try to describe what you see when you're walking or commuting. Spend 5 minutes talking to yourself about your day, in English. That's how you make English part of your life. And once it becomes part of your daily routine, fluency becomes automatic. In the next section, we're going to talk about how to measure your progress so you can see just how much you're improving. Chapter 9: How to Stay Motivated When Progress Feels Slow. All right, let's get real for a second. Learning English isn't always exciting and fast. Sometimes it feels slow, like you're not improving at all. You've been practicing, you've been speaking, and you've been doing everything right. But suddenly, you feel stuck. You can't remember words. You hesitate more, and it feels like you're going backward. That's called a plateau, and it's completely normal. When you hit a plateau, it's not because you're failing, it's because your brain is processing and organizing what you've learned. Think of it like working out. When you first start lifting weights, you see fast progress. But after a while, you hit a wall. You're still putting in the work, but the results aren't as obvious. That's because your body is adjusting and building strength beneath the surface. Learning a language works the same way. When you feel like you're not improving, that's actually when your brain is building deeper connections. I had a student named Diego who hit a huge plateau. He told me, "I don't get it. I was improving so much, but now I feel stuck." But here's what I told him. That feeling is a good sign. It means your brain is about to level up. And guess what happened? 2 weeks later, Diego suddenly started speaking more fluently because his brain had processed everything he had been practicing. So, if you feel stuck, keep going. Progress isn't linear. You'll have days when speaking feels easy and days when it feels impossible. That's normal. Here's the key. Focus on the process, not the results. Instead of thinking, "I'm not improving," remind yourself, "I'm practicing every day," and that's success. Set small daily goals. Today, I'll learn 5 new words. Today, I'll have a 5-minute conversation in English. Today, I'll narrate my morning routine. When you focus on small wins, you stay motivated because you can see your progress. Track your progress. Keep a notebook or a voice recording of your practice sessions. A month from now, you'll look back and realize how much you've improved. Celebrate the wins, even the small ones. If you understand a TV show better today than you did last month, that's progress. If you have a 5-minute conversation without freezing, that's progress. If you learned how to say a new phrase, that's progress. And here's the truth. The breakthrough always comes after the plateau. The moment you feel like you're stuck, that's when you're actually about to make a leap forward. So don't stop. Don't give up. The progress is happening, even when you can't see it. Here's your challenge. Write down one small goal for tomorrow and accomplish it. Track your wins, even the small ones. Remind yourself, you're not stuck. You're leveling up. In the next section, we'll talk about how to keep that momentum going and turn it into long-term fluency. Chapter 10: The Secret to Speaking Confidently. All right, let's talk about confidence. Because here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come from knowing more. It comes from speaking more. A lot of learners think, "I'll start speaking once I feel more confident." But that's backwards. You don't feel confident first. You build confidence by speaking. Think about how you learned to ride a bike. You didn't feel confident before you got on the bike. You felt confident after you started riding and realized you could do it. Speaking English works the same way. Confidence comes from action, not from preparation. I had a student named Marco who knew tons of vocabulary, but he wouldn't speak. He told me, I'm waiting until I feel ready. But I told him, you'll never feel ready. You have to start speaking now. So we practiced. He started with simple sentences, even when he felt awkward. And guess what? A month later, he was having full conversations without hesitation. That's because confidence is a result, not a starting point. Here's the secret. Stop waiting to feel ready. If you don't know the perfect word, say what you can. If you make a mistake, keep going. If you feel nervous, speak anyway. Fluent speakers aren't fluent because they never make mistakes. They're fluent because they don't care about mistakes. Native speakers mess up all the time, but they keep talking. If you say, I go store yesterday, instead of, I went to the store yesterday, people will still understand you, and they won't care about the mistake. They'll care that you're communicating. Confidence comes from speaking, even when it's not perfect. So stop waiting to feel ready and start talking today. Say something in English today, even if it's not perfect. Introduce yourself to someone in English, even if you're nervous. Talk to yourself in the mirror for 1 minute, even if it feels awkward. Because every time you speak, you're building confidence. Confidence isn't a skill, it's a habit. The more you speak, the more natural it feels. And the more natural it feels, the faster you improve. So here's your challenge. Speak today. Ask a question in English. Respond to someone in English. Narrate your thoughts in English. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to happen. You've got this. Now go out there and start speaking. All right. Now you know the secret to speaking English confidently without translating. You don't need more grammar books or vocabulary lists. You need action. Stop learning, stop overthinking, and start speaking. Remember, fluency isn't about perfection. It's about connection. Native speakers aren't thinking about grammar. They're focused on communication. And you can do the same. So here's what I want you to do. Today, not tomorrow, today. Have a short conversation in English. Ask a question in English. Narrate your day in English. Confidence comes from speaking, not from knowing. The more you speak, the more natural it will feel. You've got everything you need. Now it's time to take action. Stop waiting to feel ready and start talking today. You can do this, and I can't wait to hear about your progress. See you in the next one.